Welcome back to Al Chapo Sports, everyone's least favorite sports show where we do the thinking so you don't have to. Getting back into it today, we've got another Power 5 for 5, so let's jump right in. Starting with a Pac-12, number 5, we have Washington. Washington smashed California this past week, and it was a good win, but at the same time, California is not the competition. They're not the highest competition possible. So that lands them at the number 5 spot, where our other four had a bit stiffer competition or better wins. Number 4, we've got their rival, Washington State, who in the battle of the B teams beat Oregon State, who is a ranked opponent and a conference member. So definitely a good win for Washington State. Bumps them to the number 4 spot. Number 3, we got Utah. They beat number 22 ranked UCLA. That's a ranked team. That's a conference win. Good win. Utah's been looking good all year. I have nothing negative to say about Utah. They've been very good. It's shocking how good these top 3 teams in the conference are, because I feel like any of them could be ranked at number 1. But alas, Utah, number 3. Number 2, Oregon. They jumped from previously not ranked because I just hadn't seen enough from them to the number 2 spot by knocking out the highly hyped, highly respected, much talked about Colorado. They absolutely mauled them. It was pure destruction. Colorado only scored a pity touchdown there at the end. Oregon, number 2, for beating a ranked, highly touted conference member in Colorado. Number 1, we've got USC. Until someone gives me a reason not to put USC at 1, they are going to be number 1. They are 2-0 in the conference. They won this week by a pretty big margin. They are the front runner for the playoff of as far as the Pac-12 is concerned. Moving on, we've got the AFC. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this because it's the same teams from last week, which are the same teams from a week before and probably even before then. Not much movement in the ACC yet. Did I say AFC? Got NFL on the brain. Sorry, guys. ACC. Number 5, we've got UNC. They beat Pittsburgh. Conference win. Are they undefeated? I think they might be undefeated, UNC. Anyway, they're killing it. Number 5 spot. Louisville, number 4, they beat Boston College and they beat them bad. That's a conference win. They're undefeated. I know that one for sure. It's so top heavy in this conference that a 4-0 dominating your conference, winning by big margins, can only get you to number 4. I'm sorry. That's how stacked the ACC is right now. I'm going to be curious to see how things go as we get into more conference play. Duke at number 3. They absolutely demolished UConn. Not a very highly touted football program to be beating, but it was the style of win and how dominant it was that landed Duke at number 3. Number 2, Miami. I want to see Miami and Florida State play so bad. It's unbelievable. They absolutely killed Temple this week. They are, I'm pretty sure, undefeated, ranked. Miami is looking strong. They are looking the strongest they've looked in decades, but not quite as strong as number 1 Florida State, who beat Clemson. Clemson, who was, I believe, top 10 ranked in the preseason in week 1. So it's a very respectable win. It's a conference win, and they absolutely just got, probably, in my opinion, the strongest win of ACC play this week. So that lands them in the number 1 spot. Florida State making an argument to be in the college football playoff early on. Moving on to the Big 12. Oh, I didn't mention this earlier, but teams moving out of my top 5. In the Pac-12, it was Colorado. They lost so devastatingly, I could not justify keeping them in the top 5. No one dropped from the ACC, just a little bit of a reshuffling of the 5 teams. But anyway, on to the Big 12. Big 12 joining the list, we've got West Virginia, who beat Texas Tech. Conference play really started up for the Big 12 this week, so things are about to get interesting very soon. I'm very much looking forward to Oklahoma and Texas, as I'm sure many of you are. But yeah, West Virginia beat Texas Tech. They're 1-0 in the conference. They've got a good record so far this year. Moving on, TCU at number 4. They beat SMU. They're 1-0 in the conference as well. I want to say everyone in this top 5 is 1-0 there in the Big 12 as far as conference play goes. Moving on, Kansas. Kansas, I had doubted previously. I wasn't sure if they were real, but they played BYU, who was ranked in the top 5 in last week's video. If you didn't watch last week's video, what are you doing? Get your life together, man. Yeah, BYU, solid win, conference win. Good job, Kansas. You made a believer out of me, but not enough to put you in the top 2 spots, where I have number 2, Oklahoma. They absolutely smashed Cincinnati. Cincinnati is new to the Big 12 conference. I didn't expect them to do too much or make too much noise, but still, to get absolutely annihilated in a conference game like that is going to raise Oklahoma's stock quite a bit. Like I said, I'm very much looking forward to seeing them play Texas, who, no surprise, is the number 1 team in the Big 12. They smashed Baylor, and they smashed them good. That is, again, a conference win. Texas is looking strong, definitely making a playoff argument so far. We're still only 4 weeks into the season, but we got to start thinking about it, guys. Anyway, dropping from the rankings this week in the Big 12 was BYU. Off their loss. Moving on to the Big 10. Things got shooken up in the Big 10 pretty well this week. Number 5, I'm putting in Wisconsin. They have a win over Purdue. Purdue's kind of a sick man of the Big 10, but it is a conference win. Wisconsin's bouncing back after their loss a few weeks back. So yeah, welcome back to the top 5, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, spots 5 and 4 are not very credible in the Big 10. They are very top heavy this year. Moving on to number 4 then is Maryland. They are undefeated. They dominated Michigan State. Again, Michigan State is not the healthiest program right now in the Big 10, but it's still a conference win and a dominant one at that. So congrats, Maryland. You've earned your spot. Number 3, we've got Michigan. They beat Rutgers, who was previously ranked on the top 5 list last week. So good win, definitely. Michigan was pretty dominant in that game, so props to them. Unfortunately, the other 2 teams ahead of them just had stronger wins this week, so I can't justify putting Michigan above number 3. Moving on to number 2, we have Penn State, who absolutely murdered Iowa. The great hope of the division. There's 2 divisions in the Big 10. I'm blanking on the names at this moment, but the great hope of the weaker division was Iowa. They were previously ranked and they had been looking good all season, but they just got murdered by Penn State. It was not pretty, not even close. So the skill gap between the 2 divisions in this conference is a mile wide. Penn State number 2. Moving on to number 1, Ohio State University. It was a very close game, but it was a very close game against a very good team, top 10 rated Notre Dame. So a top 10 victory will get you the number 1 spot, especially when you are undefeated. Out of the Big 10, I'm not sure who's going to end up being the playoff contender. It really depends on how these future matchups end up shaking out between Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. We'll just have to see. But if you want my opinion, my money is on Michigan. But Penn could be a dark horse. Moving on then to, dropping out of our rankings this week was Iowa and Rutgers. Moving on to the SEC. Number 5, we have Kentucky. 4-0. They're one of the only 27-ish teams left in the nation with an undefeated record. Kentucky's competition so far has not been very great. 3 out-of-conference weak teams and a in-conference win over Vanderbilt, who is probably the weakest, if not towards the bottom of the SEC heap. But it is a conference win, and I have to respect the 4-0. So, Kentucky, UK, congratulations, you are number 5. Number 4, Ole Miss. They lost this week. I had bought into the hype. I thought they were going to get it done against Alabama. So even though Ole Miss lost, I'm still ranking them at 4 because I see them as better than the rest of the SEC below them. Can't beat yourself up too bad against losing to Nick Saban. And it was a pretty competitive game. So on an Ole Miss, your stock doesn't drop too low on a loss. Moving on then to number 3, we have LSU, who beat Arkansas. That's a conference win. That's a division win. They are 3-1. LSU is just a very solid team. It'll be interesting to see if they can pose a threat to Alabama or Georgia. But yeah, we'll just have to see how that shakes out. I'm not entirely sure where they stand yet. But Arkansas is a very good team, so a win over them is definitely solid. Moving on to number 2, we have Alabama, who won... Oh yeah, I just said this, to Ole Miss. They beat Ole Miss, who last week was ranked at number 2. I was pretty high on them. Thought they could really make some noise over there in the SEC West. But Alabama showed that the SEC West still runs through them. And number 1, we have Georgia. They are undefeated. They beat UAB this week. It's not a crazy, exciting game. UAB is not a giant school with a great team. But Georgia is number 1 because they are reigning and defending national champions. I can't put them any lower on the list until I have a good reason to. So Georgia, number 1, definitely in the playoff conversation, along with Ohio State, Texas, Florida State, and USC, I would say. But that's all I've got for you this time, guys, on this episode of Power 5 for 5. Let me know who you think are the top 5 teams in every conference, and stick around for more videos, both on college football, NFL, and the UFC. Like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Bye.